Hello everyone. Welcome to Fluent English Journey. I am really glad to have you here. Don't forget to subscribe so you can get daily tips to improve your English. Today, we are going to talk about how to use simple daily sentences in your conversations. These sentences may seem small, but they are very powerful. Using them the right way can make you sound more natural, confident, and fluent in English. The sky was almost silent that morning, and yet, something inside me felt loud, bright, and restless. It felt like a soft whisper saying, "Today is different." And as I walked toward the airport, the world around me felt bigger than usual, as if the air itself knew that I was about to experience something new. This is Fluent English Journey, and today, I want to take you with me on a long story about airplanes, airports, and the strange, exciting feeling of flying for the very first time. If you have never flown before, don't worry. You will fly with me through this story. And if you have flown before, maybe you will feel that same magic again. So breathe slowly, relax your shoulders, and let your mind open like a window facing the sky, because today, we are going on a long English listening journey high above the clouds. I remember standing at the entrance of the airport, holding my small backpack a little too tightly. The glass doors opened with a soft sound, and cool air touched my face. Inside, the airport felt like its own universe. People walked quickly. Suitcases rolled across the shiny floor. Voices blended together like a big soft sea of sound. And above it all, announcements echoed from every corner. Flight 102 to Singapore is now boarding. Gate 14. The voice was calm, but hearing it made everything real. I looked up at the giant screen that showed flight numbers. It flashed with bright colors: yellow, white, blue, changing every few seconds. And there, in the middle, was my flight. My heart beat a little faster. I whispered the words quietly to practice my English. Flight 27. Destination: Kuala Lumpur. Departure: 11:35. Saying it out loud made me feel braver. Sometimes speaking English is like flying. The first step feels scary. Your voice shakes. Your tongue feels heavy. You feel like everyone is listening. But when you take that small step, suddenly something opens inside you. And you want to try again. I walked toward the long line for security check. People held their passports. Some looked tired. Some looked excited. Some looked like they did this every day. I felt like a small bird surrounded by big, experienced travelers. But I kept walking, one slow step at a time. And maybe that is the secret of everything English, travel, life. One slow step. When I reached the security officer, he looked at me with serious eyes. "Passport, please." His voice was deep. My hands shook as I gave him my passport. He checked it for a few seconds. Then he nodded and said, "Thank you. Have a safe flight." Such a simple sentence. But it felt like an open door. As I walked toward the gate area, I noticed something beautiful. People were speaking different languages everywhere: English, Arabic, Chinese, Hindi, French. But even with all these languages, people understood each other. A smile, a gesture, a quiet nod. It felt like airports were made of stories. Some people were going home. Some were leaving home. Some were meeting family. Some were leaving family. And everyone carried something invisible: hopes, fears, dreams, memories. I found a seat next to a big window where sunlight touched the metal wings of airplanes outside. I could see a huge plane slowly moving across the runway. Its engines were loud, deep, powerful, like a giant animal breathing. And suddenly, it lifted off the ground. Just like that. A huge metal body rising into the sky as if it weighed nothing. I whispered to myself, "That will be me soon." and the thought felt unreal. As I waited, I listened to the sounds around me to practice English. A woman on the phone said, "Yes, I'm at the airport now. I'll be home tonight." A boy asked his father, "Can I sit near the window?" A man said to a flight attendant, "Is this the boarding line for Flight 21? Every sentence felt like a small lesson. When you listen, really listen, English becomes easier. The world becomes clearer. After some time, the speaker above my head made a soft beep, and then I heard the announcement I was waiting for. "Ladies and gentlemen, this is the first call for Flight 27 to Kuala Lumpur. Boarding will begin shortly." My stomach turned. Not in a bad way. In a way that says, something new is coming. I stood up slowly and joined the line. The line looked long, but it moved quickly. When I reached the door of the airplane, a flight attendant smiled warmly. "Welcome on board," she said. Her voice was soft, calm, warm like a blanket. And for the first time that day, I felt safe. The inside of the airplane smelled like clean air and soft perfume. The seats were arranged neatly like rows in a classroom. The lights were warm, not too bright. People placed bags in the overhead compartments. The engines hummed quietly below my feet. I found my seat 12A next to the window. Perfect. When I sat down, I touched the window lightly. It felt smooth and cool. Outside, I could still see the runway. A ground worker in a yellow vest waved his arms, guiding another plane. I watched him for a moment and wondered what it felt like to work so close to these giant machines every day. A few minutes later, a soft announcement filled the cabin. "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats and fasten your seat belts. We will be departing shortly." I took a deep breath. My hands felt cold, but my heart felt warm. I pulled the seat belt across my lap and heard the click. A small sound, but a powerful one. The sound of getting ready. The sound of trusting something bigger than yourself. The plane began to move backward slowly. The runway outside shifted. The world outside moved, even though my body stayed still. The engines grew louder. And then, the plane turned and started moving forward. Faster. Faster. Even faster. My heart beat with the same rhythm as the engines. And then it happened. The ground began to fall away. The city became smaller. The roads became thin lines. Cars looked like tiny toys. And the sky opened wide like a huge blue ocean waiting for us. I felt something inside me lift. A lightness. A freedom. A feeling that maybe, just maybe, the world is much bigger than our fears. The airplane climbed above the clouds, and I watched the white, soft shapes floating below us like mountains made of cotton. I whispered, "Wow." Just one word. But it was enough. This is where our story begins. This is where your English journey continues. And this is where the sky becomes your teacher. The airplane slowly leveled out, and the soft ding of the seatbelt sign turning off made many people breathe easier. A few passengers stretched their arms. Some leaned back into their seats. A child behind me whispered, "We're flying," as if he still couldn't believe it. And, honestly, I couldn't believe it either. No matter how many times people fly, there is always one moment, just one, where they remember they are sitting inside a machine that is thousands of meters above the ground. And yet, somehow, it feels peaceful. I pressed my forehead gently against the window. The glass was cool and smooth. Outside, the clouds looked like floating islands. Some were big and tall like mountains. Others were thin and long like soft white rivers. The sunlight touched them in a warm, golden way, making the sky look like a painting that moved slowly, almost shyly, across the world. Inside the cabin, everything had its own soft rhythm. A woman turned the pages of her book with quiet flicks. A man opened his laptop and typed in slow, gentle taps. A baby made soft, happy sounds as her mother bounced her lightly on her lap. And the flight attendants walked down the aisle with calm steps, their shoes tapping quietly on the carpeted floor. One of them stopped near my row, checking if everyone had their seat belts open. Her smile was bright but relaxed, like she had done this 1,000 times and still enjoyed it. She said, "If you need anything, just press the call button, okay?" Her tone was warm, simple, and friendly, like sunlight on a cold day. I nodded and said, "Thank you." It felt good to speak English in such a natural moment. The engines hummed steadily. It wasn't too loud, just enough to remind you that something powerful was carrying you through the sky. It felt like the sound you hear when standing near the ocean, steady and deep, never stopping. And maybe that's why people often fall asleep on planes. The sound is comforting, like a lullaby of the sky. As the plane continued forward, I leaned back and looked around. Travel is interesting because on the ground, everyone has their own world, their own problems, their own stories. But inside an airplane, all these lives sit together, side by side, breathing the same air for a few hours. You don't usually know who they are, but somehow you feel connected. In the row across from me, an older man looked out the window with a peaceful expression, as if the sky reminded him of something from long ago. A young woman, too, rose ahead, took out her notebook, and began writing something quickly, maybe a poem or a story or a letter. A group of friends whispered and laughed softly. Even when people didn't talk, the silence between them felt warm, not empty. A few minutes later, the flight attendants began the food service. They pushed a cart down the aisle. I could smell something warm, maybe rice, maybe bread, maybe chicken. The smell mixed with the soft air in the cabin, making it feel even more comfortable. I wasn't very hungry, but the smell made me curious. It reminded me of something simple. When you travel, even small things feel big. A small meal. A small conversation. A small smile from a stranger. Everything becomes a memory. When the flight attendant reached my row, she smiled again. "Chicken or vegetarian?" she asked. Her voice was slow and clear. Perfect for English practice. I answered, "Chicken, please." She placed a small tray in front of me. The food was warm. Steam rose from the rice. The vegetables looked colorful. The smell made my stomach whisper, maybe we're hungry after all. Eating on a plane feels different from eating on the ground. The tray is small, the space is small, but your attention is big. You notice everything. The taste of the rice. The softness of the bread. The coldness of the juice. And maybe that is why airplane food feels special, not because it is the best food in the world, but because you eat it in the sky. As I ate, I continued watching the clouds. They looked close enough to touch, but far enough to stay mysterious. Some clouds looked like soft pillows. Others looked like giant animals, elephants, dragons, birds, shapes that changed every second. And the sun above them shone like it was guiding us along a quiet path in the sky. While I ate the last piece of bread, the captain's voice filled the cabin. It was calm, deep, and steady. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are now flying at 35,000 feet. The weather is clear, and we expect a smooth journey." His voice had authority, but kindness too. The kind of voice that makes you trust someone you have never met. This is something I always love about flying, the captain's voice. You don't see him. You don't know him. But his voice holds the entire plane together. His words are like invisible hands keeping the journey steady. And maybe it is the same when we learn English. Sometimes a good voice, a teacher, a storyteller, a friend, can guide us even when we cannot see them. After the announcement, people relaxed even more. A man near the aisle closed his eyes and leaned back. A teenager played soft music through his headphones. A woman pulled a blanket over her legs and took a slow, peaceful breath. I finished my meal and placed the tray carefully in front of me. Then I looked outside again. The clouds had changed. They were now thin and long, like long strokes of paint stretching across the sky. The sunlight had a softer color now, almost pale, as if it was slowly preparing for afternoon. While watching the sky, I remembered something someone once told me. When you fly, you don't escape life. You simply look at it from another angle. And that was true. From here, the world looked quiet. Cities blocked by clouds. Roads hidden under white soft sheets. Mountains reduced to small bumps of land. And all the noise down there, the traffic, the arguments, the stress, felt far away. Travel teaches you perspective. Flying teaches you distance. And English, well, English teaches you connection. Even when you are far from everything you know, a simple sentence in English can bring you closer to people. Time passed slowly, but in a good way. The sky was peaceful. The cabin was gentle. And I felt something inside me begin to relax, as if my worries were too heavy to follow me up into the clouds. A little later, a flight attendant came by again. "Would you like some tea or coffee?" she asked. Her voice floated like soft music. I said, "Tea, please." She poured the warm tea into a small cup and handed it to me. The steam rose slowly, like a tiny cloud inside the airplane. I wrapped my hands around the cup, letting the warmth touch my skin, and took a small sip. It tasted comforting, like something familiar in a place far from home. As I sipped the tea, I listened to the quiet conversations around me. A man behind me said, "The view is beautiful today." A woman replied, "Yes, the sky is so clear." A child asked, "How high are we?" His mother whispered, "Very, very high." And these small conversations made me smile. The airplane felt like a small floating town, a temporary community made of strangers sharing the same sky. I leaned back again, closing my eyes for a moment. But even with my eyes closed, I could feel the movement of the airplane. Not shaking, but gliding. Smooth. Gentle. Like sliding across water. And the sound, the steady hum, felt like a warm blanket around my mind. When I opened my eyes, I looked outside again. This time, the view had changed. We were flying above a huge sea of clouds. The clouds stretched as far as my eyes could see. White, bright, endless. It felt like looking at another world. A world silent and peaceful, without problems or noise. I placed my hand lightly on the window. I thought about how small we were compared to the sky, and how big our dreams feel when we dare to chase them. Flying makes you think about these things. Maybe because when you are high up, your thoughts also rise higher. After some time, the cabin lights dimmed slightly. It wasn't dark, but softer, like the airplane was inviting everyone to rest. Some people closed their eyes. Some watched movies. Some simply stared at the sky with quiet wonder. And I sat there, breathing slowly, feeling grateful for this strange, beautiful moment between the ground and the stars. As we continued forward, a shadow of the plane appeared on a cloud below us. It looked like a tiny toy plane surrounded by a circle of colored light, almost like a rainbow around the plane's shadow. I didn't know what it was called, but it felt magical. A secret from the sky. The engines continued their steady rhythm. The plane continued its calm path. And I continued soaking in every moment, every sound, every color, every breath. Flying is not just travel. It is a feeling of being small but brave. A feeling of being far but connected. A feeling of leaving something behind while moving towards something new. And as I sat there with my warm cup of tea, the sky watching us, the clouds opening like soft gates, I felt something inside me shift gently. A realization forming quietly. Flying teaches us to trust, to let go, to rise above, to see the world from angles we never imagined. And it teaches us something else, that the most beautiful journeys often happen not outside, but inside us. Inside the sky, inside the silence, inside the heart. And that is where this part of our story rests. For now, the airplane continued its smooth journey through the open sky, and the hum of the engines felt almost like breathing, steady, calm, alive. The clouds outside shifted gently, changing shapes as the light touched them. I watched them for a long moment, feeling the quiet beauty of flying. But then, something small and unexpected happened. Something that reminded me how even the sky can bring people closer. It began with a soft voice beside me. "Is this your first time flying?" the man in the seat next to me asked. His tone was warm, friendly, and curious, the kind of voice that makes you feel comfortable even before you answer. I turned to him and smiled gently. "Yes," I said. "My first time." He nodded slowly, as if he remembered his own first flight many years ago. "I could tell," he said kindly. "You've been looking out the window with such amazement. It's a nice sight." I laughed softly. "Everything looks so unreal from up here," I said. "Like the world is a painting." "It truly does," he replied, turning his head slightly toward the window. "Flying changes how you see things. Down there, everything feels big. Up here, everything seems peaceful." His words had a quiet wisdom, the kind that comes from experience. He looked to be in his late 40s, with gentle eyes and a calm expression. There was something comforting about sitting next to him, as if he knew the sky well. "My name is Daniel," he said after a moment, offering his hand. I shook it lightly. "Nice to meet you, Daniel." "My name is—" I told him my name with a small smile. "Ah," he said warmly. "A beautiful name. And a good name for a traveler." I felt my cheeks warm a little at the compliment. Then he added playfully, "And definitely a good name for someone who stares at clouds for half the flight." I laughed again, and it felt good. Talking to someone in the sky feels different from talking on the ground. Maybe it's because you're both floating. Maybe because your minds are more open. Or maybe because when you are far from everything familiar, you appreciate connection more. Daniel leaned back in his seat and said, "Do you know, when I first flew, I was terrified. My hands were sweating. My heart was beating too fast. I kept thinking the plane would drop from the sky." He shook his head with a small smile. "But look at me now. I fly almost every month for work." "Really?" I asked. "You travel that much?" He nodded. "Too much, maybe," he said with a soft laugh. "Sometimes the airport feels like my second home." I imagined living a life like that, packing bags, catching flights, leaving cities, arriving in new ones. The idea felt exciting, but also heavy. "Do you like it?" I asked him. He was quiet for a moment, thinking. "I like seeing new places," he said slowly. "I like meeting new people. And I like moments like this, the calm, the sky, the clouds." He paused, then added, "But sometimes I miss stillness. I miss routine." He shrugged gently. "Life gives us one thing, takes another. That's how it works." I nodded. His words felt real. "What about you?" he asked. "Why are you traveling?" I took a small breath, letting myself be honest. "I think I am looking for something new," I said. "Maybe a new experience. Maybe a new part of myself. I don't know yet." I smiled shyly, adding, "Maybe this flight is just the beginning." Daniel nodded as if he understood completely. "Travel often begins before the plane leaves the ground," he said. "It begins inside the heart." For a moment, we both looked out the window, silent but connected. The clouds below us drifted like soft waves. A long, thin line of sunlight stretched across the sky like a quiet promise. So, Daniel said lightly, breaking the silence, tell me the truth. Were you scared during takeoff? I laughed, caught immediately. A little, I admitted. Or maybe a lot. I thought so, he said with a friendly smile. But you handled it well. I've seen people cling to the armrests like the plane is a monster. I pretended to look offended. I did not cling. He raised an eyebrow playfully. You held the seatbelt pretty tightly. I couldn't help but laugh again. Okay, fine, I said. Maybe I held it a little. A little, he repeated teasingly. Your knuckles were white. We both laughed quietly so we wouldn't disturb other passengers. The laughter felt warm, like a small light inside the quiet sky. After the laughter faded, Daniel asked, so tell me, what surprised you the most about flying so far? I thought for a moment. The silence, I said. I thought the sky would be loud. I know what you mean, he replied. People imagine storms, thunder, danger. But most of the time, the sky is soft. It holds you. I liked that idea, the sky holding us. And you? I asked. What do you enjoy most about flying? Daniel took a slow breath. The moment the wheels leave the ground, he said. That small moment when you stop being a person on Earth and become a traveler in the sky. His words painted a picture in my mind. I could still feel that moment. The lightness. The lift. The breath that got caught in my chest. Can I tell you something? He added softly. Of course, I said. I always feel a little emotional during takeoff. Not sad, just moved. He smiled gently. There's something beautiful about rising above your problems, even for a short time. I nodded. I felt that too. We stayed quiet again, watching the world pass beneath us. Feelings like this don't need many words. After a few minutes, Daniel asked, do you like learning languages? I smiled. I love it. And English is the one I want to speak well. You're doing great, he said kindly. I didn't even think English wasn't your first language. His compliment warmed me. I looked down at my hands and said softly, sometimes I feel nervous when I speak. That's normal, he said. Everyone feels nervous. Even native speakers get nervous sometimes. The important thing is that you keep trying. He leaned slightly closer and said with a smile, and look at you. You're having a full conversation at 35,000 feet. Not bad. Thank you, I said, feeling braver. Daniel took a small sip of water from the cup on his tray. Then he asked, do you know the best way to learn English? I looked at him curiously. How? Conversations exactly like this, he said. Simple. Natural. Real. His words felt true. Textbooks teach rules. Teachers teach structure. But conversations teach life. And, he added, flying is actually a great place to practice. People are relaxed. Time is slow. And the sky makes everyone a little kinder. I laughed softly. So the sky helps language learning too? Oh yes, he said with a playful nod. The sky helps everything. We continued talking. Slowly, easily, like two people sitting in a quiet room, even though we were thousands of meters above the ground. Daniel told me about countries he visited: Japan, Australia, Portugal, Thailand. He spoke with light in his voice, as if each place left a small piece of joy inside him. Travel changes people, he said. Not because of the places, but because of the stories. I listened deeply, not just to learn English, but to understand his world. And he listened when I shared small pieces of my story too. Not big things. Just little truths. But little truths are enough to connect two humans. As we talked, the sunlight outside began to shift. It turned softer, more golden. The clouds below glowed like a silver ocean. It felt like the world was slowing down just for us. After a long conversation, Daniel leaned back and said quietly, do you feel it? Feel what? I asked. The moment when a flight becomes more than a flight. I looked at him, unsure. He pointed gently toward the window. Look. I turned my head and saw it, the sky stretching endlessly, soft and bright. The world below hidden by clouds. And us, floating gently in the middle of it all. It's the moment, he said softly, when you realize you're not just moving through the sky. The sky is moving through you. I didn't answer right away. I was too busy feeling the truth of his words settling in my heart. Flying wasn't just travel. It was transformation. Slow, quiet, unexpected. And conversations like this, small, simple, honest, were part of that transformation. The airplane continued forward, but inside the cabin, time felt still. Calm. Peaceful. The kind of stillness that lets you see yourself clearly for a moment. After some time, Daniel said, "It's good to talk. It makes the flight feel shorter." "Yes," I said softly. "It makes the sky feel friendlier too." He smiled, and then we both looked ahead as the cabin lights brightened slightly. A flight attendant walked by, checking on passengers. A few people were stretching again. Some were waking up from short naps. And then I realized something simple but beautiful. A sky filled with clouds becomes even more beautiful when you share it with someone. A conversation, just a small one, can turn a quiet moment into a memory. And sometimes, the person sitting next to you is exactly the person the journey wanted you to meet. The engines continued their steady song. The airplane continued carving its path through the sky. And I continued feeling something new, something warm, open, growing. A sense of connection. A sense of courage. A sense that this journey was already changing me. Above the clouds. Inside the sky. Between two strangers who were strangers no more. And that is where this chapter ends. But our journey continues. The airplane had been flying smoothly for a long time. The engines hummed in the background like a soft song, the clouds drifted below us like white waves, and everyone seemed calm. Some people were sleeping. Some were reading. Some were quietly watching movies with half-open eyes. The cabin lights were low, gentle, warm. It felt like the sky had tucked us in with a blanket of peace. But peace in the sky can change quickly. Sometimes gently. Sometimes suddenly. Sometimes in a way that reminds you that the sky has its own personality. It began with a small shake. Just a tiny one. Like someone tapping the side of the airplane with one finger. I didn't think much about it. Airplanes move sometimes. It's normal. Daniel didn't react either. He was looking at his tablet, reading something with a calm expression. But then the plane shook again. This time a little stronger. I felt my heartbeat tighten, like it wanted to knock on my chest and ask, "Should we worry now?" Daniel looked up from his tablet and gave a small smile. "Turbulence," he said calmly. "Completely normal." I nodded, trying to swallow my nervous feeling. But the plane shook once more, harder this time, like the sky was suddenly restless. A soft chime sounded. Ding! The seatbelt sign lit up above our heads. A gentle voice from the speakers said, "Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts." The voice was calm, calmer than my heartbeat. I clicked my seatbelt quickly, pulling the strap tight across my lap. Around me, other passengers did the same. A few people looked nervous. A child asked in a small voice, "What's happening?" And his mother whispered, "It's okay. Just a little bump in the sky." The plane dipped slightly. My stomach dipped too. I gripped the armrest gently, trying not to look scared. But my body felt stiff, like it didn't know what to do. Daniel noticed. He smiled softly, turning toward me. "Hey," he said in a calm, warm voice. "It's all right. Turbulence is just air moving in different directions. The plane is built for this. It's like bumps on a road." I nodded again, but the plane shook a little more and my breath caught in my throat. Daniel placed a hand near the armrest, not touching mine, but close enough to offer comfort without being intrusive. "You're doing great," he said. "Just breathe slowly." I tried. A slow breath in. A slow breath out. The plane shook again, like it was rolling over invisible hills. The sound inside the cabin changed slightly, cups rattled on trays, bags shifted in the overhead bins, and a few people whispered prayers under their breath. But the flight attendants remained calm. They took their seats, buckled in, and waited with peaceful expressions. And that helped. If they weren't worried, maybe I didn't need to be worried either. The turbulence grew stronger for a moment. The plane lifted slightly, then dipped again, then vibrated. It felt like riding a small boat on a windy sea. My fingers tightened around the armrest. My shoulders felt tense. My legs felt stiff. It was strange. My mind understood it was normal, but my body reacted anyway. I looked at Daniel. He nodded gently. It's okay. The pilots see all of this on their radar. They know exactly what's ahead. Another shake. A deeper one this time. My heart jumped. My breath shortened. Hey, Daniel said softly. Look at me. Not at the window. I turned my head toward him. You're safe, he said. These planes are stronger than you can imagine. His voice felt like a warm hand on my shoulder. Steady. Gentle. Grounding. The lights flickered for a moment, not turning off, just dimming a little, and one woman gasped softly. A teenage boy across the aisle held his seatbelt tightly with both hands. An older man closed his eyes and whispered slowly to himself. The plane shook again. Longer this time. The sound of the engines stayed strong, but the air around us felt like it was moving in different directions at the same time. Daniel continued speaking softly. Do you know something interesting? He asked. I shook my head carefully. Turbulence feels dangerous, he said, but it very rarely is. Pilots go through it all the time. They train for it. They expect it. The plane shook again, small, then big, then small again. I feel like we're on a giant washing machine, I whispered nervously. Daniel laughed quietly. That's the perfect description, he said. But you're safe inside it. Another bump. My stomach flipped like a small coin trying to find balance. What helps, Daniel said, is to relax your body. When you tense up, it feels scarier. Try letting your shoulders drop. I tried. My shoulders didn't drop much, but they softened a little. Good, he said warmly. Now breathe slowly. The sky is just moving. I took slow breaths. In. Out. In. Out. The turbulence continued, but my heartbeat slowly began to calm down. Not completely, but enough. The captain's voice came on again, calm and steady. Ladies and gentlemen, we are experiencing some moderate turbulence. Please remain seated with your seat belts fastened. This should pass shortly. That's a good sign, Daniel said. If he says shortly, it means he knows when it ends. Another shake. A big one. Some people gasped. Instinctively, my hand moved slightly toward Daniel's armrest. Not grabbing, not holding, just moving closer, like my body wanted comfort. Daniel didn't point it out. He didn't make a joke. He simply said, "You're okay," in the softest, most reassuring voice. The plane dipped slightly again. My heart jumped again. But this time, I didn't feel alone. The turbulence went on for another minute. Maybe two. It felt longer because the sky was restless, unpredictable. But slowly, like a wave losing strength, the shaking began to fade. The bumps got smaller. The dips grew softer. The vibrations became quieter. Then, stillness. Just the gentle hum of the engines again. Just the soft glow of the cabin lights. Just the familiar calm of the sky. I let out a deep breath I didn't know I was holding. Daniel smiled. See? It passed. I leaned back into my seat, feeling my muscles slowly relax. That was intense, I said softly. It always feels intense, he replied. But you handled it better than you think. I shook my head with a small laugh. I was holding the armrest like it was the last piece of earth. That's normal, he said. Even I used to do that. You? I asked, surprised. Oh yes, he said with a smile. My first flight? I wanted to get off the plane in the middle of the sky. I laughed gently. That's impossible. Exactly, he said. But fear doesn't care about logic. The plane continued forward smoothly. The clouds outside looked calm again, soft and peaceful. It was almost hard to believe that the sky had been shaking us so strongly just moments ago. That's the thing about the sky, Daniel said. It changes. Just like life. You go through a rough patch and then, suddenly, everything is calm again. I nodded slowly. The thought stayed with me. Do you feel okay now? He asked. Yes, I said. Still a little nervous, but okay. That's normal, he said gently. Your body needs a moment to trust the calm again. He was right. I could still feel a little tension inside me, but the fear had softened. Like a shadow that wasn't as dark anymore. A flight attendant walked by, her smile warm again. Everyone all right? She asked softly. I nodded. Daniel nodded. A few other passengers nodded too. The cabin felt brighter, lighter, more connected. On the other side of the aisle, a little girl held her mother's hand tightly. Her mother stroked her hair gently, whispering, "See? It's okay now." The sky just moved a little. Her words made me smile. Simple words. Comforting words. Words that reminded me that sometimes, even adults need to hear the same thing. After a while, the captain spoke again. We have passed through the turbulence. The air ahead is clear. The passengers let out small breaths of relief. Some laughed quietly. Some stretched their arms. Some looked out the window, like they wanted to see the calm for themselves. Daniel looked at me. You survived your first turbulence, he said with a smile. I feel like I won a small battle, I replied. You did, he said. And that's part of the flying experience. You trust something bigger than yourself. That thought stayed with me. Trust. In the plane. In the pilot. In the sky. In the journey. I looked out the window again. The clouds below us were soft and glowing in the afternoon light. They looked innocent again, like they had never shaken us. Do you know what helps after turbulence? Daniel asked. What? I asked. A story, he said with a gentle smile. Something simple. Something warm. I turned toward him, curious. And just like that, he began telling a small story from one of his early flights, a story about fear, about courage, about trusting the sky. And as he spoke, the fear inside me melted slowly, like ice in warm hands. The turbulence was over. But the lesson stayed. Sometimes the sky shakes you. Sometimes life shakes you. But you keep going. You keep trusting. You keep flying. And often, someone sits beside you, maybe a stranger, who helps you breathe through the bumps. And that is how this chapter ends. With calm after chaos. With trust after fear. With blue sky after shaking clouds. Our journey continues. When you sit inside an airplane and wait for takeoff, something interesting happens inside your mind and inside your body. You feel excited, but you also feel nervous. You feel ready, but you also feel a little unsure. It is a strange mix of feelings, and today, in this part of our story on Fluent English Journey, we will explore this moment slowly, calmly, and with simple, clear English. So take a deep breath with me, sit back, and let's step into that quiet moment right before an airplane leaves the ground. The engines are not loud yet. They make a soft humming sound, like a big metal animal breathing before it starts running. You can feel a little vibration under your feet, a tiny shake that reminds you that something powerful is waiting. Outside your window, you can see other airplanes moving, some taking off, some landing, some waiting like you. It feels like you are part of a big, organized dance in the sky. The flight attendants walk down the aisle, checking seatbelts, checking bags, checking everything. Their steps are quiet but confident. Their calm faces make you feel safe. Sometimes one of them looks at you and gives a small smile. Even if you are a nervous traveler, that smile can make you relax a little. You look around the airplane cabin. Some people look excited. Some look sleepy. Some already have headphones on. Some are talking softly to the person next to them. Some are holding onto the armrests like they are preparing for a big moment. And maybe you're doing the same without noticing. Then the announcement begins. The pilot's voice comes in calm, friendly, steady. It says something like, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome on board. We are ready for takeoff shortly. Please make sure your seatbelt is fastened." His voice feels warm and safe, like someone guiding you through a dark forest with a small light. You trust the voice. You trust the person behind it, even if you don't know them. The airplane starts to move slowly. At first, it is just a small roll forward. Almost nothing. But you know this is the start. The moment before movement is over. The airplane is alive now, awake, ready. But even before it reaches the runway, there is a long, slow ride. The airplane turns left, then right gently. It passes by long rows of runway lights. It waits behind other planes. It moves again. Stops again. And during all of this, you have time to think. You might think about where you are going. A new country. A new city. Maybe a new job. Maybe a holiday. Maybe you are going to see someone you love. Maybe you are going to start a new chapter in your life. Or maybe you are just taking a break from your normal life and giving yourself a view from the sky. This waiting time is quiet outside, but loud inside your mind. Your thoughts move fast. You wonder, will the takeoff feel scary? Or will the airplane shake? Or will I feel okay? You might remember other flights you took in the past. Maybe you think about the first time you were on an airplane and how amazing it felt. Or maybe this is your first time ever and everything feels magical and strange at the same time. The airplane continues its slow journey toward the runway. The engines get louder, but not too loud yet. It is like the airplane is clearing its throat, preparing for a strong sound. You can almost feel the power waiting inside, ready to burst out. But it is not rushing. It is patient. Airplanes always move with confidence, with control. They never hurry. They never panic. They simply glide to where they need to be. As you wait, you look out the window again. You see airport workers in bright jackets standing near the runway. They move their hands and signal to pilots with special glowing sticks. When you see them wave or point, you feel like you are watching a secret language that only airport workers understand. A language made of movement instead of words. And even though you do not understand it, you feel that everything is under control. Inside the airplane, you hear small sounds. A seatbelt clicking, someone opening a bag, someone laughing quietly, the soft sound of a baby, the voice of a flight attendant saying, "Excuse me," or "Please take your seat." These simple sounds remind you that you are not alone. You are part of a moving world, full of different people going to different places, each with their own stories, dreams, and reasons for flying. The airplane makes one last turn. You feel it. It's slow, but you can tell this turn is different. This turn means you are now facing the beginning of the runway. The long, straight road. The path that takes you up. And suddenly, everything becomes quiet, not silent, but calmer. People stop talking. Even children become still. Everyone knows what is coming next. Everyone feels the same mix of excitement and nervous energy. This is the moment right before takeoff. A moment that lasts only a few seconds, but feels longer because your senses become sharper. You feel everything more. You notice every sound, every movement. Your heart beats a little faster. Your breath becomes short for a second. You hold the armrest without thinking. And your mind whispers, "This is it." The engines grow louder. Much louder now. You feel it through your seat. A deep vibration runs through your body, like a drumbeat that prepares your heart for what comes next. You hear the familiar accelerating sound, like the airplane is inhaling a huge breath before jumping into the sky. The pilot's voice returns one more time. Flight attendants, prepare for takeoff. These words sound simple, but they carry a lot of meaning. They feel like a signal that everything is ready. Everything is checked. Everything is safe. Then the airplane stops. Just for a moment. A full, quiet stop. It is the last calm second before everything begins. And in that second, you listen. You feel. You prepare yourself. You think about why you are traveling. You think about where you are going. And you remind yourself that you are about to do something humans could not do for thousands of years. Fly above the world. Then, finally, the airplane starts to roll. Slow at first. Gently. Then a bit faster. And faster. And faster. But that part, the true rise into the sky, we will experience together in the next section. For now, just hold on to this moment. The moment before the machine leaves the ground. The moment where your heart sits between fear and excitement. The moment that reminds you that every journey, big or small, begins with one breath, one thought, one brave step forward. This is the moment we have been waiting for. The engines are ready, the airplane is ready, and you are ready too, even if your heart is beating a little faster than usual. So let's sit together in this quiet, powerful moment inside the airplane on Fluent English Journey and let the story move forward slowly, clearly, and calmly. You feel the airplane begin to roll down the runway. At first, it is gentle, almost soft. The wheels touch the ground like hands sliding over a smooth table. But then, the sound grows. The engines roar, not in an angry way, but in a strong, confident way. It is like the airplane is saying, "Hold on. I'm taking you up." The speed increases. The vibration under your feet becomes stronger. You can feel the force pushing you back into your seat. It is an unusual feeling, but not uncomfortable, just different from anything in normal life. The airplane moves faster, faster, and faster, as if the ground is trying to hold on, but the plane is ready to break free. You look out the window. The airport buildings blur a little. The lights stretch into long lines. The world outside starts moving too fast for your eyes to follow. You realize that this is no longer normal speed. This is airplane speed. A speed that connects you from one part of the world to another in just a few hours. Inside the airplane, no one talks now. Everyone is quiet. Passengers sit straight, seatbelts tight, hands holding armrests or bags. Some people close their eyes. Some smile. Some look nervous. Some look excited. But all of them feel the same acceleration, the same push, the same moment of here we go. You hear the wheels on the runway. A steady rolling sound. A strong, fast heartbeat of the airplane. You feel the engines working harder. The airplane is not just moving, it is preparing to rise. And then, finally, it happens. The front of the airplane lifts just a little. You don't see it, but you feel it. Your body feels lighter for a moment, like gravity is taking a soft step back. The airplane's nose rises, pointing toward the sky. And then, the wheels leave the ground. It is a quiet moment, but also a powerful one. A moment when the airplane becomes free. A moment when you stop being a person sitting inside a machine on the ground and become a traveler floating above the world. You might look out the window now. The ground drops away slowly at first, then faster. Cars look smaller. People disappear from sight. Buildings become tiny shapes. Roads look like long lines drawn by a pencil. The airport becomes a miniature world behind you. The airplane climbs and climbs. You feel a soft pressure on your chest. Your ears might pop. You swallow and the feeling goes away. But the view keeps changing. The ground becomes shapes. The shapes become patterns. The the patterns become colors. And then, finally, everything below mixes into one wide picture, the land, the roads, the fields, all blending into soft colors. You are in the sky now. But the takeoff is not over yet. The airplane keeps rising, climbing higher and higher through the air. You hear the engines working strong and steady. You see the wings move slightly, like they're adjusting to the sky. Each movement is small but meaningful. Each movement keeps you safe. The airplane gently turns. Through the window, the horizon tilts to one side. You can see the sun, or clouds, or maybe even the shadow of your own airplane moving across the land far below. It is a beautiful moment, quiet, peaceful, almost unreal. Inside the cabin, the lights stay dim. People slowly relax. Some breathe out with relief. Some laugh softly. Some look out the window like they cannot believe what they are seeing. Even if you have flown many times before, this moment always feels magical. The airplane passes through a small layer of clouds. For a second, everything outside becomes white, nothing but soft mist. It feels like flying through a dream. Then, suddenly, you break through the top of the clouds. And there it is. The sky. Not the blue sky you see from the ground, but the clean, bright sky above the clouds. A sky that feels bigger, quieter, almost endless. The clouds below look like white mountains, soft and full of light. The sunlight touches everything gently, making the clouds shine. You feel calm now. The takeoff is complete. The airplane is stable. The engines hum steadily. The world below is far away, and the sky around you is peaceful. The captain speaks again. His voice is warm, relaxed, confident. He says something like, "We have reached our initial altitude. Sit back and enjoy the flight." And when you hear that, your body relaxes even more. Your shoulders drop. Your breath becomes slow. Your heart settles into a normal rhythm. A flight attendant walks down the aisle again. The first signs of normal in flight life begin. Someone opens a book. Someone takes out a phone. Someone puts on headphones. Someone stretches their legs slightly. The feeling of fear is gone now. The feeling of excitement stays. For a moment, you think about the miracle of this whole experience. Just a few minutes ago, you were on the ground. Now you are thousands of feet above the earth. You are floating in the sky inside a giant metal bird. And yet, everything feels natural. Everything feels safe. Everything feels peaceful. You look out the window again. The world looks simple from here. Problems feel smaller. Worries feel far away. The air is clear, the sun is bright, and the clouds look soft enough to touch. This is the magic of flying. The freedom. The quiet. The view. The feeling that the world is bigger and more beautiful than you remembered. And as the airplane continues climbing gently, you know that the rest of the journey will be just as calming, just as smooth, just as full of meaning. But our story is just beginning. We still have much to explore: what happens inside the airplane, what travelers feel, what flight attendants do, what pilots see, and how the sky becomes your temporary home. So let's keep going together. Now that the airplane is in the sky, something begins to change inside you. The fear of takeoff fades away. The sound of the engines becomes normal. The seat feels softer, the air feels calmer, and your mind starts to relax. So in this section of Fluent English Journey, let's explore what happens in the first quiet minutes after takeoff, when the airplane becomes your moving home in the sky. When you look around the cabin, you notice a small shift in energy. People start moving again, but slowly, carefully. A man near the window takes off his jacket. A woman in the aisle seat stretches her arms. A child presses their face against the window, amazed by the white clouds outside. Everyone begins to breathe more easily, like they are settling into a long, gentle ride. You hear soft sounds all around you. The low hum of the engines, steady and calm. The quiet click of a seatbelt opening. the whisper of someone speaking to the person next to them, the soft rustling of pages as someone opens a book. These are peaceful airplane sounds, sounds that tell you everything is normal, everything is okay. You might feel a slight pressure in your ears again. You swallow or you yawn and the pressure disappears. It is a small reminder that your body is adjusting to the height. But you don't think too much about it because your attention is pulled toward the window. The view is beautiful. The clouds below look like giant white pillows. The sunlight shines across them, making them glow. The sky above you is clean and endless. From this height, everything feels quiet and slow. The world below feels far away, almost unreal. Even if life feels busy or stressful on the ground, up here everything looks peaceful. You might even wonder why people worry so much when the world is so beautiful from above. The airplane makes a small, gentle turn. Not sharp, not scary, just a smooth glide in a new direction. You feel it in your chest, like a soft push. And once again, you're reminded that this giant machine is flying through the open sky with confidence and control. Across the aisle, a flight attendant stands up and begins walking to the front of the cabin. Their steps are light and practiced. They check if everyone is okay. Their face looks calm, friendly, professional. They greet a passenger with a small nod. They help someone put away a bag. They make sure everything in the cabin is safe and ready for the next part of the journey. You notice the trays folded on the back of the seat in front of you. You see the safety card and the small pocket holding magazines or airline information. These simple objects remind you that you're not just traveling, you're inside a carefully designed space made for comfort, safety, and long hours in the sky. The flight attendant returns to the front and picks up the speaker. Their voice comes through the overhead speakers, warm and clear. We will begin our in-flight service shortly. Please remain seated until the seatbelt sign is turned off. Their voice is slow, friendly, easy to understand. Even if your English is still growing, you understand their tone. It is a tone that says, everything is fine. You are safe. The seatbelt sign stays on for a little longer. You hear the soft ding sound every few minutes. Sometimes the airplane shakes very gently, tiny bumps of turbulence. It feels like driving on a road with small stones. Nothing dangerous, nothing surprising. Just part of flying. You feel the airplane adjust to the air, and you trust it more with each passing minute. Your hands rest on your lap. You take a slow breath. You think about the journey ahead. You might think about the destination, maybe a new city with tall buildings, maybe a warm beach, maybe the home you haven't seen in months. Or maybe you think about the sky itself, wondering how many people across the world are flying at this exact moment. The seatbelt sign turns off with a soft ding. And this moment always feels like a small freedom. People stand up slowly. A few head to the bathroom. Someone opens the overhead bin and takes out a sweater. A mother gives her child a snack. The quiet, slow movement returns to the cabin. The flight attendants prepare the meal carts. You hear the wheels rolling. You see the silver lids and small food trays. You smell something warm, something familiar. Maybe rice, maybe bread, maybe chicken. Airplane food may be simple, but the smell always makes you curious. While waiting, you look out the window again. The sky outside seems even brighter now. The sun hits the wing of the airplane, making it shine like metal made of light. You follow the shape of the wing with your eyes. Its smooth, wide curve. Its strength. The way it cuts through the air without shaking. The wing is your silent guardian. It carries the weight of hundreds of people, and it looks completely calm doing it. Inside your mind, thoughts slow down. There is something about being in the sky that makes you think more clearly. You remember things. You reflect. You imagine. You dream. The airplane gives you space to think about your life from a new angle, higher, quieter, softer. Maybe you think about someone you miss. or someone you're going to see. Maybe you think about work or school or your future. Or maybe you think about nothing at all and simply enjoy the feeling of being far above the earth. The cart reaches your row. The flight attendant smiles. Chicken or vegetarian? They ask. You choose. They give you the warm tray, the small drink, the napkin, the little plastic fork and knife. You thank them. They smile again and move on. You open your meal slowly. The smell rises. You take a bite. It tastes simple but good. You eat, drink, relax, and feel your body settle deeper into the seat. You hear others doing the same. Soft clinks of plastic cups. Quiet sounds of forks on trays. Small conversations here and there. You feel connected to everyone even if you don't know them. You're all in the same sky, traveling in the same direction, sharing the same quiet moment of life. After eating, you place your tray back and close your eyes for a moment. The airplane moves smoothly now. The engines hum like a soft, endless song. You feel warm, safe, and calm. The world outside is cold and far away, but inside the cabin everything feels close and gentle. And as you rest your head against the seat, you realize something important. Flying is not just about going somewhere. Flying is about the feeling of being between worlds. Between the ground and the sky. Between your past and your future. Between who you were and who you are becoming. And the journey continues. There is a special moment during every flight when people begin to settle so comfortably that the airplane feels like a small floating village in the sky. In this village, every passenger has a story, and every story is quietly traveling from one part of the world to another. In this section of Fluent English Journey, we explore those hidden stories, the soft conversations, the quiet thoughts, the little human moments that make flying feel warm and meaningful. When you look around the cabin now, you notice something different. People are not stiff or nervous anymore. Their shoulders have relaxed. Their faces look calmer. Some passengers are reading. Some are watching movies. Some are whispering to the person beside them. Some are simply sitting with their eyes closed, letting the soft airplane hum wrap around them like a blanket. You feel a small connection to everyone, even though you don't know their names. Because all of you, at this moment, are sharing the same air, the same sound of the engines, the same bright sky outside the windows. You might be going to different places after the flight, but right now you are all together. A soft conversation begins behind you. Two strangers are talking for the first time. Their voices are gentle, careful, friendly. One person asks, "Is this your first time flying?" The other laughs quietly and says, "No, but it feels new every time." You smile without meaning to. Their words feel familiar. Because it's true, no matter how many times people fly, something about the sky always feels new. Behind them, someone else is telling a story about their trip. You hear pieces of sentences float through the air. "My sister lives there. I haven't seen her in 3 years. I'm excited but nervous." These small bits of conversation feel like windows into other lives. For a moment, you imagine their families waiting, maybe at the airport, maybe smiling, maybe holding signs, maybe hugging after a long time apart. You realize that airplanes don't just move people, they move emotions, memories, hopes, and dreams. On your left, a child is drawing in a small notebook. Their eyes are wide with wonder. Every few minutes, they lift the book to show their parent. You can hear their soft voice saying things like, "Look, the clouds look like mountains," or "Do you think we can touch the sky?" The parent smiles and nods patiently, answering with the same calm love only a parent can give. Their conversation reminds you of your own childhood, or maybe of a younger cousin, or a nephew, or a friend's child. Children always see the world with new eyes. For them, flying is not just transportation. It is magic. You glance down the aisle again. Farther away, two older passengers sit side by side. One is telling a long story, speaking slowly and softly. The other listens with deep interest, nodding from time to time. You can't hear the whole story, but you can see the calm rhythm of their conversation. It feels peaceful. It feels honest. Like two hearts sharing life high above the world. You think to yourself, every person here has a reason for being on this airplane. A reason for traveling. A reason that matters. Some are going to reunite with their families. Some are going to work in a new country. Some are students starting a new school year. Some are traveling for the first time. Some for the 100th time. And each one is carrying a story invisible to others. For a moment, you imagine what your own story looks like. You picture it like a small light inside you. A light that moves with you from place to place. A light that grows brighter each time you discover something new, meet someone new, or take a brave step into the unknown. Another soft announcement comes from the speaker. A flight attendant reminds everyone to stay hydrated, drink water, and stretch their legs from time to time. The friendly tone makes you smile. Even though you're thousands of feet in the sky, you feel cared for. The drink cart comes down the aisle again. The flight attendant stops at your row and smiles warmly. They ask, "Would you like something to drink?" You think for a moment. "Maybe some water, please." "Of course," they say, as they hand it to you. Their kindness feels genuine, simple, human. When you take a sip, the cold water refreshes you. You look out the window again. The airplane has reached a high, steady cruising altitude. The clouds now look like a giant fluffy sea. The sunlight dances on their tops, turning them into bright white islands floating beneath you. You imagine walking on the clouds. You imagine lying on them like a soft bed. You imagine how peaceful it must be to sit on a cloud and watch the world below. These thoughts make you feel light. They make you feel young again. Someone near you laughs softly at something on their screen. The sound is warm, gentle, and it spreads through the cabin like a small spark of joy. Someone else sneezes, and two people say "bless you" at the same time. A third person drops a pen, and their neighbor picks it up for them. These little moments show how even strangers can create a community inside an airplane. You start noticing the little things passengers do. A man wipes his glasses with a cloth. A woman adjusts her sleeping mask. A teenager listens to music and taps a quiet rhythm on the armrest. A mother pats her baby's back, trying to help them fall asleep. A business traveler types slowly on a laptop. A young couple holds hands quietly, sharing a smile without speaking. Every small movement, every gentle action, is part of the story of this flight. You take another look outside. The sky changes color slightly as the airplane moves. The blue becomes deeper. The sunlight softens. The airplane's shadow appears on a cloud for a brief moment, round and tiny, like a little friend following you through the sky. Inside you, something feels calm. Something feels soft. Something feels safe. This is the kind of peace you don't feel every day on the ground. Up here, away from noise and rushing and stress, your heart slows down. Your thoughts become smooth and quiet. Your mind becomes clear. Maybe you begin thinking about your own journey. Why are you traveling? Who will you meet? What will you learn? What will change in your life? Airplanes give you time to think about these things. Time to imagine. Time to dream. Time to understand yourself in a deeper way. On long flights, people often surprise themselves. They remember things they forgot. They make decisions they've been afraid to make. They feel emotions they didn't expect. Something about the sky opens the mind. Something about the altitude opens the heart. You look down at your hands. You feel them resting quietly. You take a gentle breath. You feel grateful not just for the flight, but for this moment of peace, this soft silence, this chance to see the world from a new angle. A small baby cries for a few seconds. The cabin hears it. And then, slowly, The baby stops crying as the parent gently rocks them back and forth. The sound fades. Peace returns. It's like the sky itself whispers, "It's okay. Calm down now. Everything is safe." You lift your cup, take another sip of water, and let your mind wander. For a moment, you don't think about time. You don't think about work. You don't think about responsibilities. You think only about the sky, the clouds, and the quiet life inside this flying machine. The person next to you turns and smiles. Maybe they say a simple sentence like, "Beautiful view, right?" You smile back and say, "Yes. Very beautiful." The conversation is short, gentle, friendly. Even a small exchange like this can feel special when you're in the sky. You return to your thoughts again. And then you realize something: every person on this airplane is living their own story, but for this moment, all those stories are flying together, side by side, through the same sky. And that is beautiful. The airplane continues forward, steady and strong, carrying all these stories like small treasures. And the journey goes on. When the sun finally slipped behind the clouds and the sky turned deep blue, I walked slowly back toward my gate, feeling a soft mixture of calm and excitement. The lights inside the airport looked warmer now, almost like tiny stars guiding people who were tired, hopeful, or simply ready to go home. My flight number glowed on the big screen, bright and inviting, and I felt a small pull in my chest, like the beginning of a new chapter that was waiting for me just beyond the boarding door. As I sat down near the window, I looked out at the airplanes resting outside, their wings shining under the night lights. There was something peaceful about the scene. The world outside was quiet, almost still, but inside the airport, life kept moving. People rolled their suitcases, whispered into phones, sipped warm drinks, and waited for someone to call their zone number. I could feel their stories mixing with mine in the shared space. Different people, different dreams, but all traveling through the same sky. The speaker above my seat crackled softly, and a calm voice announced that my flight was now boarding. I stood up, took a deep breath, and joined the slow-moving line. The air felt fresh and cool as I walked through the boarding bridge, and with every step, the noise of the airport faded behind me. When I entered the airplane, a warm smile from a flight attendant welcomed me inside. I said hello, trying to sound confident, and she nodded kindly, guiding me to the left aisle. My seat was near the window, which made me happy because flying at night had always felt magical to me. I placed my bag under the seat, put on my seatbelt, and let my body sink into the soft cushion. The cabin lights were dim, a soft glow that made everything feel quiet and gentle. People continued to find their seats, moving slowly, placing bags in overhead bins, speaking in low voices. I listened to the sounds carefully: the click of seatbelts, the rustle of jackets, the distant hum of engines warming up. Each sound felt familiar now, like part of a routine that slowly became comforting. When the plane finally pushed back from the gate, the small screens above US turned on, showing the safety demonstration. I watched closely, even though I had seen the instructions before. It was a good listening practice, I thought to myself. The crew used simple, clear English, and as I listened, I repeated some words quietly in my head. Seatbelt. Life vest. Oxygen mask. Emergency exit. The plane moved slowly toward the runway, and a soft vibration traveled through the floor. Then, everything suddenly became still. The engines grew louder, stronger, almost like a giant taking a deep breath before a long run. My heart began to beat a little faster, but not with fear, more with excitement. The airplane started to move quickly, faster and faster, until the ground blurred outside my window. And then, with one smooth motion, we lifted into the air. The city lights spread out below us like a glowing map, tiny and beautiful. As the plane climbed higher, the lights became smaller and softer until everything turned dark, except for the moon hanging quietly in the sky. I leaned back in my seat and felt a deep, warm peace wash over me. The engines hummed with a steady rhythm that made me feel safe, like a calm voice saying everything was okay. The cabin lights dimmed even more, leaving only a soft golden glow along the aisle. A flight attendant passed by and gently asked if I wanted something to drink. Her voice was kind and clear, the type of English I always wished I could speak naturally. I ordered a warm tea, and when she handed it to me, the cup felt comforting in my hands. I took a small sip, letting the warmth spread through my body as the plane moved smoothly through the night sky. For a moment, I looked outside again. The moonlight touched the airplane wing, making it shine like silver. Clouds drifted below us, soft and quiet. It felt like I was floating through another world, one without noise or hurry, one where everything moved slowly and peacefully. Inside that silence, I began to think about my journey, everything I had learned, everything I had felt. Flying had always seemed difficult and scary, but now, sitting here, it felt almost simple. It felt natural. I thought about the first time I ever flew, the confusion, the fear, the questions in my head. And now here I was, understanding announcements, speaking to the crew, listening to instructions, and feeling more confident with every trip. It was a small victory, but for me, it was a meaningful one. Traveling is not only about going somewhere new. It is also about learning something new about yourself. The airplane began to level out, and the captain's calm voice came through the speakers, saying we would reach our home city in a little over an hour. His words felt like a gentle reminder that every journey eventually brings you back to where you started, but never as the same person. You return with new ideas, new experiences, new confidence. And sometimes, you return with a story that helps you grow in ways you never expected. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the soft engine sound guide me into a peaceful rest. I wasn't sleeping, just floating between thoughts, between the sky and the quiet inside me. I felt grateful for this moment, grateful for the chance to travel, to learn, to listen, and to speak English in real-life situations. Even simple phrases felt important. Hello, thank you, excuse me, can I have some water, please? These little sentences had carried me through the journey, step by step. When I opened my eyes again, the cabin lights turned brighter. The crew moved quietly, preparing for landing. The captain announced that we were beginning to descend. I looked out the window and saw the first soft lights of my home city glowing below, welcoming me back. The plane lowered slowly, gently, passing through thin clouds that looked like soft white blankets. The engines hummed at a new rhythm, slower and deeper now. As the ground came closer, I felt a small excitement inside my chest, that feeling of returning to familiar streets, familiar faces, familiar air. The wheels touched the runway with a smooth bounce, and everyone let out a small breath of relief. The plane slowed, turned, and rolled toward the gate. When we stopped, a soft chime rang above us. The flight attendant smiled and said, "Welcome home." And in that moment, I felt it. I was home, not just in my city, but inside myself, inside the new confidence that had slowly grown during this journey through the sky. I unfastened my seatbelt, grabbed my bag, and walked toward the exit. When the airplane door opened, warm air touched my face. I stepped out, feeling a little more ready for the world, a little more sure of my English, a little more connected to the sky above and the ground below. And that night, as I walked toward the airport exit, I whispered to myself, I will fly again. And next time, I will speak even better. When I stepped into the arrival hall, the world felt different. The lights were bright but soft. The floor reflected them like a polished mirror, and my footsteps echoed gently as I walked. Even though many people were around me, everything seemed calm, almost peaceful. Maybe it was because the journey had changed something inside me. Maybe it was because flying through the night had slowed my mind, helping me notice small things more clearly. I pulled my small suitcase behind me, the wheels rolling quietly on the smooth floor. Above me, screens showed different flight numbers and arrival times. People held signs with names on them, waiting to welcome someone special. Some travelers walked quickly, rushing to meet their families. Others walked slowly, looking tired but relieved. I watched their faces, and I felt connected to them, even though I didn't know any of them. We had all come from somewhere. We had all flown through the same sky. As I moved forward, I heard small pieces of English around me, simple words, short sentences, soft greetings. Did you sleep? How was the flight? This way. Let's go. The sounds felt familiar now. They felt friendly. I repeated a few of them quietly in my mind, practicing the rhythm of each sentence, the rise and fall of the voice, the warm tone that made the words sound alive. A soft, cool breeze drifted through the hall as the automatic doors opened for someone ahead of me. I liked that feeling. It reminded me that I was close to the outside world again, close to home. But before leaving, I stopped for a moment near a large window. Outside, it was still night. The runway lights were shining in straight glowing lines, guiding airplanes that arrived after mine. In the distance, another plane was taking off, its lights rising into the darkness like a tiny moving star. I watched it for a long moment and felt a small question forming inside my mind, a question that was simple but powerful. Why do airplanes feel so magical? Maybe because they take us far. Maybe because they lift us above the world. Or maybe because flying makes us think differently, slowly, carefully, like we're stepping outside ourselves for a moment. I didn't have the answer yet, but I liked that feeling of wondering. Curiosity always brings you closer to learning. And learning is a journey that never really ends. As I continued walking toward baggage claim, I passed a small cafe. The smell of warm bread and fresh coffee floated in the air, and for a second, I thought about stopping. But then I remembered something, my English practice goal. This was a real chance to use it again. So I walked inside slowly, letting my heart beat a little faster, the same way it did at takeoff. The cafe was quiet, with only a few travelers sitting at the small round tables. Behind the counter, a young man was arranging pastries, and he looked up when I stepped forward. His voice was gentle when he said, "Hello, how can I help you?" I tried to speak clearly, the way I practiced. "Hello. Can I have a hot chocolate, please?" "Sure," he said with a smile. "Would you like it with cream?" "Yes, please," I replied, feeling a small spark of confidence. He prepared the drink and handed it to me. When I thanked him, he nodded kindly and wished me a good night. It was such a simple exchange, just a few sentences, but it felt like progress. A small practice, but a meaningful one. I held the warm cup in my hands as I walked away, feeling proud of myself. I found a seat near a quiet corner and took a sip. The sweetness filled my mouth and the warmth relaxed my shoulders. I let out a deep, slow breath, the kind that comes only when you feel safe. As I sat there, I thought about everything that had happened on this trip, the crowded airport, the takeoff, the night sky, the landing. Every moment had taught me something. Not only about flying, but about listening, speaking, and feeling more confident in English. Travel gives you new eyes. It shows you the world in a different way. And when you listen to English during your journey at the gate, on the plane, in conversations, you learn naturally. Slowly. Softly. Like water shaping stone. After finishing my drink, I stood up and walked toward the exit. The doors opened with a quiet sound, and cool night air touched my face. I stepped outside, pulling my suitcase behind me, and felt a calm happiness spreading through my chest. The city lights in the distance looked warm, like they were calling me home. Cars moved slowly along the road outside the airport. A taxi driver waved, and I nodded, walking toward him with a relaxed step. As I sat in the back seat of the taxi, I leaned my head against the window and watched the airport disappear behind me. I whispered gently to myself, not loud enough for the driver to hear. I did it. I really did it. And then, with a small smile, I added, next time, I will speak even better. The taxi moved smoothly down the road, carrying me back to my home, back to my life, but with a little more courage and a little more confidence than before. Flying had given me something special, a story, a feeling, a lesson. And as the night passed quietly around me, I knew that the sky would call me again someday. After arriving home, I sat quietly in my room, suitcase at my side, tea in hand, and thought about the journey I had just completed. It had not been just a physical trip from one city to another. It had been a journey of learning, of listening, of understanding, and of growing. For anyone learning English, or for anyone learning anything new, there is a lesson in every moment, especially when traveling. This is the lesson I want to share in this part of Fluent English Journey. Flying gives you time. Time to think, time to observe, time to practice English. It forces you to slow down. When you sit in the airplane seat and listen to announcements, you hear simple words spoken slowly and clearly. Please fasten your seatbelt. Life vest under your seat. We will begin our descent shortly. Each sentence is small, but it carries meaning. And if you repeat it in your mind or speak it quietly, it becomes practice, practice in real life, practice that helps your listening and speaking skills grow naturally. I thought about the conversations I overheard on the plane. Simple English, full of emotion. Is this your first flight? I can't wait to see my sister. Did you sleep well? Each sentence tells a story. Each sentence shows a feeling. And even though I did not speak to all of those people, I was learning by listening. I was learning how English works in real-life situations, friendly, calm, polite, and full of emotion. The flight attendants, the pilot, the people around me, they were all teachers in their own way. The pilot spoke clearly and calmly. The flight attendants used simple words with warm tones. Passengers spoke short sentences, repeated words, and sometimes laughed or smiled. These were all examples of natural English communication. And I realized something important. Learning English is not only about memorizing grammar or vocabulary. It is about understanding feelings, practicing kindness, and using words naturally, even if you are not perfect. I also reflected on the small challenges I faced. Turbulence, the unknown noises of the airplane, the first takeoff, the landing at night, it all felt a little scary at first. But I survived. I listened. I spoke. I observed. And I realized that challenges in flying are very similar to challenges in learning English. At first, everything seems confusing, fast, and a little overwhelming. But if you stay calm, take one step at a time, listen carefully, and practice slowly, you will overcome them. You will grow. You will learn. I remembered Daniel's words during the flight. Trust the plane. Trust the pilot. Trust yourself. That idea felt bigger than just flying. It applied to learning English too. Trust yourself. You might make mistakes. You might feel nervous speaking. But that is part of learning. Just like the plane handles turbulence, your mind can handle challenges. Just like the plane takes you safely through the sky, your effort will take you safely through learning. I thought about how every traveler has a story. Every person on the plane was moving toward something: home, family, work, a new adventure. And each story reminded me that language is about connection. English is not just a subject to study. It is a way to connect with others, to share feelings, to understand stories, and to be understood. When you listen carefully, speak slowly, and observe with attention, you become part of that connection. The night outside my window was quiet and calm. The city lights shone softly in the distance. And inside me, I felt a new sense of purpose. Flying had shown me something powerful. Learning English, like flying, is a journey. There will be small bumps along the way. There will be moments of nervousness, small fears, and mistakes. But if you stay calm, listen, practice, and trust yourself, you will rise. You will glide above challenges. You will reach new heights, and every step will teach you something valuable. I closed my eyes for a moment and imagined the flight again, the takeoff, the night sky, the clouds, the quiet conversations, the moonlight on the wing, the gentle hum of the engines. Every sound, every word, every emotion became a memory and a lesson. And I realized, the sky is not the limit. The sky is a classroom. A place where listening, observing, and practicing create growth, not pressure. A place where you can become more confident, more fluent, and more connected to the world. And finally, I understood the most important part of the journey. Learning English, like flying, is not just about reaching a destination. It is about enjoying the ride, noticing the small moments, practicing slowly, and trusting yourself. Every sentence you speak, every word you hear, every friendly exchange is a small step upward. And each step counts. I smiled, sipping the warm tea in my hands. The journey was over for now, but I felt ready for the next one. The next flight. The next conversation. The next word I would learn. The next story I would hear. Flying had taught me more than just how to travel through the sky. It had taught me how to travel through learning, through English, and through life. And in that quiet room, with the night softly surrounding me, I whispered gently to myself, keep flying, keep learning, keep speaking, keep listening, and enjoy every moment.